Hey, this is Matt McLean. I'm going to get in and show you how to do the creative project in Finale Notepad. So I'm on a Mac here. It's a little bit different on a PC, and I'll post some other helpful videos for PC users, at least links to YouTube videos that other people have done. But first we're going to get into Finale here, and this much it looks pretty much the same. We don't need to enter the serial number. You just click past that, and then you can name your piece and your composer, and we're just going to keep this standard right now and go to the next screen. And as I did in the other tutorial, what we're going to do for this project is use a piano score, a grand staff. So you just go to keyboards and piano, and then you add this to your template here on the right, and then you hit next. And at this point we can pick our key signature and our time signature as well. So let's say one of these I want to see in 6/8 time. So you just highlight 6/8, and then for the key, let's do a minor key. So you select major or minor here, and then let's go to maybe C minor. So you can grab this little bar and drag up or down to pick the key that you're in. And then for this exercise, it's going to be 8 bars or 8 measures, same thing. So you select 8 here and then finish, and you'll see your little template right here. And then you're basically just going to be dragging dropping notes from palettes that are floating out here. So this is your note palette. These are articulations, and you don't really need to use these for this project, at least to get an A. If you want to get in and play with them, that's fine, in terms of using dynamics and slurs. So the first thing to do would be to grab I'm going to use a dotted half note, and we're just going to build a chord. And let's see, so make sure that I have a note selected. So what I've done is selected a half note, and then you can click on the dot over here to turn into a dotted half note. And then you just drag it into, actually you just go and then click into the arrange window over here. And so remember, this is in the key of C minor, so I want my first chord to be a C. So I'm going to drop that in there, and then to build a chord you can just add notes above it, and you can build a little stack just like this. So here's a C minor triad, and I'm going to show you a cool little trick that should help you save time. Once you put one triad in, you can use this tool, and you can just, this is the object selector tool, so you can just select this measure, and you can hold down Option, and actually I take it back, you can actually just drag it once it's highlighted blue to another measure, and it'll populate it. So I'm just dragging it over to 4 measures. Now watch this, I'm going to hold down Shift and collect 4 measures, and then I'm just going to drag these over here. And now I have a bunch of C minor triads. Now this isn't really what I want to do. This isn't the final product, but as I stated in the guidelines, the printed guidelines, I want the first and last chords to be tonic triads. So we can just leave the first and last measures the same. And the other ones you can move around and play with. So one way to do this quickly is if you select a note value, this is kind of quirky, higher than the note that's actually on the in the measure. So this is a dotted whole note, which is crazy, but if you click, you kind of have to click around a couple times, but you can highlight the whole triad pink like this, and then you can use arrow keys to move your chords up and down. So this is, you can build a chord progression really quickly doing this. And so I'm just going to move some things around like that, and then you can go up to your transport up here, your playback controls, and hit play and listen to it. So yeah, I kind of liked it, except for maybe one chord I need to change here. So you can just change them like that and use your arrow keys to zip around to the chord you need to change. But let's say I just want to, oops, notice when I went past it, oops, it accidentally starts adding additional measures. So it's kind of like working with pizza dough. It gets kind of sticky sometimes, and you can run into problems. I'm sure everyone will. But you just have to start experimenting and clicking around. And you can always email me if you really run into a problem. But if this happens, you can just use the selector tool, and you can highlight a measure and delete it. But notice that you actually have to select both the treble and bass clef to delete. So I just highlighted them, and now I'm going to highlight the whole thing here. And delete those. So now we're back to our 8-measure phrase. And then from this point you can start adding melody notes in. And then let's see, this is C minor, and this is one of the things that I briefly mentioned in the guidelines, is in terms of a melody that outlines the chords. Really, basically what I'm saying is, if you're playing a C minor triad, which is C, E flat, and G, then most of the melody notes should probably be notes from this triad. And you can have other notes as well, and that's where the creative aspect comes in. There are no hard and fast rules. But generally a good idea to start the downbeat of a measure with a chord tone. And there are plenty of exceptions, and use your ear. If your ear tells you it sounds good, then it is good. So I really just want you to have fun with it at this point. So now you can drag a note from your palette and then put it in here. So C, I'm going to maybe C, E, and G. I'll start with a G, and then in 6/8 time, so I might do a little scale thing that goes up like this, and let's say I'm just going to go right up the scale. And then what is our next triad here? So it looks like it's an A flat triad, so this would be the 6th chord, so A flat, C, and E flat, and then look at my little scale, leads nicely right up to a chord tone, so I'll just stick with an E flat, oops, right there. And if you click on the wrong note, you can just use your arrow keys to move it around. And let's give that a listen. So, yeah, it's kind of boring, but let's say I'm okay with it. The goal for this project is to get it done. It's easy to get an A, just follow the guidelines, and then if you have some extra time, then do art and make it good. But I'm not grading on how good it is. It's totally subjective. I really just want to see 2 examples, one in major, one in minor, in the grand staff, where you have chords in root position that look like little snowmen down here. I'm not worried about voice leading or anything really tricky like that. And then I want to see a melody up here. And then let's see, I'm just gonna add some more notes. And let's see, I'm just gonna go, since I went up, maybe I'll go down. And then I'm going to show you the next kind of cool step that will save time. So I mentioned in the guidelines that I want it to be what is known as a musical sentence, which is a 2-bar phrase and a 2-bar phrase that are basically some sort of repetition, and then a 4-bar answer to it. And you see this stuff all over the place. For example, Happy Birthday is in fact this type of structure. And there's other famous pieces. If you look up Minuet in G minor, it's a famous Bach piece. I'll post a link to it. That's another one that has this stuff all over the place. But once you have the first 2 measures, what you can do is just highlight them, highlight the measure using Shift, and then drag them over. And let's just listen to it and see how this sounds. So you'll notice that the melody stays the same, but the chords underneath change. And that might be cool. I could just leave it like that. Let's give it a listen. Yeah, it's almost cool. Sometimes it helps to change a couple notes. So notice I'm grabbing a higher note value, a larger value. This is a half note, and then I'm just going to click on a note to select it, and then I'm just going to change the end of this little phrase here, and then we'll give that a listen. And there is the first part of our sentence. So all I did is copied it over, change a couple notes, and then the last 4 measures you can do whatever you want. And sometimes it helps to, you can copy and paste some ideas that you've already used. The best composers actually tend to recycle ideas more often than you'd think. Your brain sort of turns off if you spew out too much new information. So let's see, I'm going to actually maybe just use this little rhythmic idea from this measure, and I'm going to copy it over and copy it over again, and then I'm just going to change some of the notes. So we'll see how this sounds. So I'm just going to go right down the scale. Okay. You know, I'm almost done, and it's what, it hasn't even been 10 minutes yet. So got to plug in a few extra things. And then the one other thing that I wanted you to be careful of is in minors, if you use a 5 chord on a dominant triad. So in the key of C minor, that would be some sort of G triad. What I would like you to do is make it a major triad. So I don't actually see one in here. So we can change that quickly. So let's make this chord a G triad. There we go, G. And then what I want you to do is change one note to make it a major triad. So instead of having a B flat, it's going to have a B natural. So all you do is highlight the note and you hit N, and the N for natural, and that'll change it to a major triad. And then in your melody, you just have to be careful to use a B natural as well. So now I'm just going to add another note here. So I'm coming, let's keep this continuous. I'm coming from a G. Let's see, maybe we'll go to land on this note. And actually, this will be a good example of using the melodic minor. So I'm actually going to use 3 notes here at the end of the measure. Oops, I made a mistake. I need to turn this into a dotted, I'm going to use the first half of the measure, it's just going to be an F. And I'm going to turn it into a dotted quarter note, you just hit a period and it'll add the dots. You don't have to redrag the note. If you hit double dots, you can actually add tons of dots by hitting period. And then undo on a Mac is Command Z. We'll just take you back here. Now I'm going to go back and add my little 8th note run. So the melodic minor has a raised 6th and 7th degree. So in the key of C minor, this just needs to be turned into A natural. The B here will be a B natural, and then end happily right back where it started on a chord tone in the key of C. So here's your little melodic minor run, and this is like we talked about a little bit last week. So a lot of pieces go back and forth between natural minor, melodic minor, and harmonic minor. You notice there are B flats throughout this whole thing up until this second to last measure, in which case it goes to melodic minor. So let's give it a listen, see how it sounds. And there you go. That's done. So just remember to save it. You can go to save or save as, actually. You name it with your last name. So call it MCLEN, and we'll just call it project. There you go. Have fun with it. And let me just show you one other example that I was messing around with last night. Same thing in C minor. So here's another piece. In terms of building something using that sentence structure where you have a 2-measure phrase that's repeated and then some sort of 4-bar answer at the end, I've done the same thing that I did before, where I used the copy tool and I copied the first 2 measures over. But notice that all of these note values are completely different. So what I did is I kept the rhythmic values, but then and kind of kept some of the contour. There's enough to keep it cohesive, so your brain has something to latch onto, but it's new enough. There's enough new information in terms of new note values that it isn't totally boring. Let's give this one a listen. Yeah, and that harmonic minor part really has a strong flavor. It sounds a little bit like Greensleeves. So this is a good chance to jump in. Have fun with it. Email me with questions. I'm sure things will come up. Oh, here I see one right here. How do you tie notes? Well, you can use this tool over here, but the easiest way to do it is to just highlight a note and then you hit T. So T will tie two notes together. Maybe I could tie this one to that note there, or T will undo it as well. If you want to put rests in, you can just highlight a note and hit R. You can always undo it and add the notes back in by using the undo function. That's pretty much it. Just make sure your triads are in root position. We'll see ya around.